Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. First of all, before we get started, I want to thank all 198 subscribers now. I have 198 subscribers. Thank you so much for subscribing to my channel. And for those of you who have stuck with me as subscribers, I really appreciate it. I appreciate all my subscribers. You, by showing your support, you subscribe to my channel, and I really appreciate that. Um, I would really appreciate it even more, and the community of Worthy Cherries would even appreciate it if you guys could, any of you guys could become a Patreon contributing member on my Patreon. Recently, I have lowered two of the membership costs on my Patreon. Um, the More Nuts tier is I dropped it from $9 down to $5 now. The Extra Nuts tier is it was $25 and now it's down to $10. I dropped those down. Those are the two that are set aside for adult content. Obviously, I'm still trying to figure out how to transfer my videos off of my flash drive onto those two tiers so that you guys can just go to my Patreon account and look for the videos in there. Now, the $3 tier is meant for those of you who are under 18, because by law, technically, you're not supposed to be looking at adult content anyway. So, I mean, it's not something I can regulate. I don't know if Patreon regulates it or whatever as far as that goes. But the $3 tier, that's the budget tier. It's for people that are on a budget, but it's also for people that are under 18. It's not. There's no adult. There's no adult content on there. I don't. That's not to be meant for adult content. So I set aside two other tiers. Like I said, I have a $5 one now. It's a $5 one, and I have a $10 one. Those two are meant for adult content. Now I have like I said, I've lowered the price on both of those. They were a lot more than that. There was the More Nuts was $9. The Extra Nuts was $25. I dropped it down to $10. The $9 one, like I dropped that down to $5, obviously. So anyway, I would really appreciate it if you guys could become a Patreon contributing member. Remember those those membership funds. It's a membership that you have to pay every month, obviously. So keep that in mind. For those of you who can afford it, I really appreciate it. And you would be helping out the community of worthy charities that need the money. And like I always say, um, all the funds go directly to a worthy charity that I choose from. I don't see a pin of it. I don't get any of it. It just goes directly to a worthy charity. And so that's about it. I'm gonna get started where we left off last time on the Derek DLC. We're on step 4. We're at the beginning part of step 4. I had to stop at a certain point because it was so long. Anyway, so we're gonna finish that. So let's get started. All right, let's go full screen. There we go. And load it. And this is where we left off. Okay. Excuse me if you hear me coughing. I don't mean to. It's because I have asthma. So try to take my rescue inhaler. And of course, I'll have to stop from time to time to take a drink. You retrace the path back to the apartment, crossing through the crowded streets with bundles of groceries. The place was brisk. Oh, the pace was brisk. Excuse me. The two of you had places to be and people to see. And here's our handsome man, Derek. Okay, took a picture. For those of you who have Steam, all you have to do is press the F12 button and take a picture, and every picture that you take goes directly to your account on Steam for Our Life Beginnings and Noise. Just to let you guys know that. For any of you who don't know that, if you have a Steam account and you have Our Life Beginnings and Always on there, that's how you do it. As soon as you return, Derek dumped the bags onto the counter. He turned his head over his shoulder to face you. We can just put the cold stuff in the fridge and leave the rest. We've got to go soon. You placed what you carried on the end of the counter. You snatched the eggs and opened the nearly empty refrigerator. Where in the fridge?
Whatever works.
Wherever you'll remember it being. Okay. Gotta love his smile too. So cute. What sage organizational advice? You nodded along with Derek's enthusiasm. Let's do it. With confident determination, the two of you tore through the bags in search of goods that needed to stay chilled. With the team effort, it only took a couple of minutes to put the groceries away safely. Nice work, Chippy. Thanks. He offered you a triumph high five. You gave his hand a loud smack. Now nothing's stopping us. We can actually eat some of these groceries we got. I'll agree with that. Given the ticking clock, you had a fast and simple breakfast. While it wasn't fancy, it satisfied your appetite and would fill you through the day. When you were done, Derek placed the dirty dishes in the sink. He gave them a light rinse and wiped his hands.
Right.
We gotta go. The bros are waiting. In short order, you exited the apartment. As you would be staying out longer, Derek was more cautious leaving his place. Derek double-checked that he locked the door and went to his car. You jumped in the passenger seat and buckle your seatbelt. Derek started the ignition and checked behind him before he easily pulled out of the spot. George texted me and said he was already at Mom and Dad's place. He's gonna leave his car there, and then you, me, and him and Nico will go to mine. It'll be too much of an extra hassle to make George drive behind us. He grinned cheekily, with a knowing glance. But I did already tell him that you had dibs on shotgun. Of course, duh. Okay, what do we choose here? Excuse me. Yeah, I don't think they would be mad about it, so I'm not gonna pick that one. I mean, I hope they wouldn't be mad about it. Dating you is already paying off.
You know it.
I am more than happy to use my eldest brother powers to benefit my boyfriend. Ah, so nice. So nice. Derek was bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. His focus stayed on the road. He boldly navigated through the packed streets, his entire demeanor screaming his familiarity with this drive. The sounds of traffic droned on, making it easy to zone out. You hadn't even noticed that the conversation had completely dropped off until Derek spoke up with a question.
So,
what do you think of what we're reading? Okay, so what do you think of what you were reading before? Any good? It was pretty good. That's cool. It's better than the alternative. How was the gym? It was excellent. I worked up a sweat this morning. Thanks for asking. That's good. Let's see. What do you think we'll do today? What's your workout schedule? You think Nicholas will be alright? He seemed down yesterday. Yeah, Yeah, I wonder what has gotten into him, right? Do you think Nicholas will be alright? He seemed down yesterday. Derek's positive demeanor flattened in an instant. He shrunk in on himself, a little uncomfortable.
oh,
You noticed that too. Yeah, kind of hard to not to. He seemed not to know what to say, silently driving his brows pulled together, he started he stared directly ahead. His thoughts clearly consumed him. It took another moment for him to respond. Nicholas will be happy in the long run. Yeah, figure out what is bugging him and get it straightened out, maybe. He likes me and he likes you. Us dating won't change that. Yeah, I'm sure you're about that. I'm sure you're right about that. It's like when I moved out, and when George did too, his first instinct is to resist life moving forward so fast. But he's not gonna hold us back. I think you're right. You understand your little brother really well. Gently, a smile unfurled on Derek's face. I hope so. Derek turned into the same parking lot from the day before. You arrived at the other Soares household. You both got out of the car and walked up to their door in the complex. It swung open before Derek could knock. It's like somebody had an idea they were coming, right? Oh, it's George. Okay. Derek took a step back, not expecting it. George grinned from the doorway and welcomed you inside.
Hey!
Hey, bro.
Welcome back.
George first bumped his brother, each of them excited. Hello. Having a good morning? So far. He led you further into the condo. Nicholas was lounging on the couch. He twisted around to face you.
You're here.
Yep, we're here. His voice was casual and his face was politely pleasant. He eased off the cushion, getting to his feet. Without any particular hurry, he drifted off towards the entryway. Of course, we wouldn't miss it. You notice Mr. and Miss Soares cleaning up the kitchen. They must have finished breakfast themselves. Oh, looks like we have company. Welcome. It's nice to see you two. Derek nodded and his mom turned around to put a jar of strawberry jam into the refrigerator.
Hello.
Hello, Derek. Good morning, Chippy. How was your drive? Hi, Dad. The drive was the same as usual, but forget about that. I forget about that. Derek lit up with anticipation and beamed.
Congrats.
Happy Father's Day. Yeah, happy Father's Day. Miss Soares patted her husband on the back. He puffed up, full proud dad mode. Thank you. Oh, my mom said happy Father's Day too. He directed his attention towards you. Thank thank you again. It's wonderful. It's a wonderful day already. Derek is observed contentedly before glancing over his brothers. George had pulled out his phone, and so at some point, and Nicholas observably flated, felted with his hair clips. You two of you ready to go?
Yeah!
Take a picture of all three boys together. Why not? I was born ready. Good to hear that, Nicholas. We still need to get to the root of what's bothering you. I mean, there was something bothering you the last time we were on here. With zealous claim, Nicholas was suddenly all fired up. George crossed his arms, decidedly not too energetic. Not as energetic. I'm not that level of ready, but I can manage leaving now. Do you need anything, Chippy? I don't think so. Alright, then let's go.
Are you sure?
No one needs to go potty. Oh, come on. I mean, they're adults. If they had to go, they would have done it already. They're all older. Well, Nicholas, I think, is still in high school. George is in college or working probably. And of course, our boy Derek is the same age as us. He's working. He's already gone through school, I guess, or finishing school. I'm not sure exactly. Miss Surrey's poked her head into the conversation, her expression too innocent. Okay, what's up the frown, Nicholas? Something's up. Yeah, Miss Suarez poked her head into the conversation, her expression too innocent. All three of her sons slumped their shoulders and sighed. Yes, Mom.
Yes, Mom.
Yes, Mom. Perfect. She clapped her hands together and the boys relaxed, all showing different degrees of amusement.
Have a good one.
Have fun. We'll see you this evening.
Goodbye. Talk to you later.
See you tonight. We'll be there. Now let's roll out. Derek led the way after waving to his parents. He held the door for you and his brothers. Outside, he unlocked the car and it beeped. George and Nicholas beelined for the vehicle. Sorry. George initially went for the passenger's seat before catching himself and opening the back door. Nicholas rolled into the back seat without hesitation. You and Derek got into the car, completing the seating arrangement that Derek had discussed prior. As Derek turned the key into the ignition, it struck you that the last time you had been on an outing with only the four of you was when you had been the boys' babysitter. Now George was actually an adult, and Nicholas wasn't that far behind him. It was surreal, thinking about how much had changed over the years. Everyone had grown up. You had wondered how Nicholas and George felt about hanging out with the big kids as equals. You glanced at the two, though, in the rearview mirror and noticed Nicholas's gaze on you with an expression that you couldn't quite displace. Derek cranked up the AC, but kept the car in park. He leaned his head back.
What's up?
So, Nico, where am I going? The youngest leaned forward, sticking his head through the gap between the car front seats. I want to go to Zeke. It's a bakery. Derek raised his eyebrows and exchanged a look with George. Who? What is a surprise? Even more than I had figured. You're not a fan of cakes and cupcakes and all things sugary. Yeah, I thought you grew out of all that. George's tone was more teasing than Derek's, dry with mock skepticism. Nicholas rolled his eyes. I did. Most desserts are totally inedible. This place is different. The owner is cool and we should support local businesses. They've got vegan and gluten-free options and other stuff too. Now, can we get over there? The later it gets, the more stuff will be sold out. Bring it up on your phone. It should be 20 minutes from here. Derek chuckled, but chose not to comment on all the defensive explanations. Your wish is my command.
Thanks.
Thank you. Nicholas smiled sweeter than his dessert preferences. Derek brought up his phone and typed out Zeke on the maps program. Nothing obvious turned up. Nicholas snorted, still poking his head towards the front of the car. Try an X, not a Z.
I gotcha.
Gotcha. Derek corrected his spelling, then tapped the first result. It was open. Averagely busy and an estimated 22 minutes away. Now, buckle up. Nicholas flung himself backwards and Settled in his seat, Derek waited for him to click his seatbelt before shifting the car into reverse. George had been buckled since his brother was started the car. You weren't far behind. Sorry. You wonder if it was normal for Nicholas to need a reminder. I doubt it. I think he would be old enough to know how to buckle up, obviously. The directions chimed in over the speakers to head east. Derek shook his head. Let me escape the parking lot first. He muttered to the mapping program as it kept giving him unhelpful instructions. Once he reached the road, it finally stopped complaining about Derek's twists and turns. George drew one of his legs up and leaned against the car door, getting comfy. If we are going to go somewhere with a bakery, we could have gone to the grocery store. Think about the convenience.
No.
Come on, bro. We got a car now. We can have higher standards than a grocery store's bakery's selection. George laughed back at him, but doubled down.
No.
I still would have picked out a normal supermarket. It's a classic. Derek grinned as he flicked his turn signal on. Most of his attention was on the spotlight in front of him, but he took the opportunity to banter.
Sorry.
Sorry, George. Chippy and I went to the grocery store today without you. Already? Yeah. I was out of basically everything. Shoot. We missed out then. George closed his eyelids tightly and hummed in thought. Remember back when Nicholas insisted on using his allowance on a carton of eggs so he could see if cooking them on the sidewalk worked? Yeah, I also remember all the raw egg puddles and eating scrambled eggs for breakfast and dinner. Nicholas shrugged his shoulders high, justified but hiding his embarrassment. Or hiding his embarrassment. Yeah, hiding his embarrassment. Inquiring minds had to know. And it was more exciting than getting an apple. George's eyes narrowed, openly judging his little brother. I wanted to eat an apple, and I did. My purchase led to zero regret, unlike your science experiment. Okay. What do I pick here? I'm going to compliment Nicholas on his egg experiment. See, I did the same thing when I was his age. Yeah, I think it's either that or George's Borgie. No, I don't want to. That would be kind of rude. I don't know. I think that's between him and Elizabeth thing. Yeah, I'm just gonna go with this. I tried the egg thing too when I was a kid. Nicholas' seatbelt strained against him leaning forward. You get it. It felt hot enough that summer that it should have worked. It was worth checking. I still think there has to be a way to do it. The lively discussion continued through the drive. About 20 minutes later, the GPS chimed. The destination was on the right. Derek turned into a packed row of shops. Above one of them, a bright pink sign with electrified swirled letters proclaimed itself as Zeke. Zeke? I think that's how it's pronounced. It grabbed your attention, standing out amongst the more sedate signs around it. Nicholas shimmered in his seat. Derek found a parking place along the street and carefully parallel parked. Enough cars zoomed past the street that Derek and Nicholas didn't feel safe opening their car doors. You and George got out first and waited out on the sidewalk for the two to crawl through. Nicholas stifled his laughter as he watched Derek confront himself over the gear shift. Spot had a meter, so Derek had to pay for 30 minutes worth of parking. We should be in and out, right? You're not planning on to have a whole meal here. Definitely not.
All right.
Then that'll work. Despite the mere minor bumps getting there, all the boys were visibly thrilled. You were delighted. Nicholas fused with his hair and readjusted his romper. Once he had straightened out it back out, he nodded at George, who had waited by him. Derek marched ahead of the pack, and you were certain that he was going to hold Zeke's door open for everyone. treasured his gallantry, yeah, sure. He truly was considerate. You felt warm inside when he took hold of the handle and pushed it forward. He held it wide and waited for you and his little brothers to pass. Nicholas skipped on by with George not far behind him. You followed them, but turned to Derek on the way in. Thanks for holding the door.
No worries.
No problem. You continued in, and Derek was only a step behind you. The swinging of the door as it closed jingled a sprightly bell. It set the tone of the place immediately. A classy yet cozy atmosphere that was full of bursting with warm and inviting scents. And most everything has some shade of pink or cream. Yeah, I'll take a picture. Why not? If the owner could have made the green leaves of live plants around the room delicate baby pink instead, you didn't doubt they would have. The four of you went over the clustered together near the front of the shop. Today's freshly made confections set in perfectly aligned rows inside a glass display, each of its own paper dolly underneath. No other customers were inside at that time, but you weren't alone for more than a minute. The bell had announced your arrival, and the sound drew out someone from the back. They blended in with the store's style, so exactly it had to be intentional. Oh, and they have the pronouns they, them. So this person is probably either trans or binary, which is cool. Hey, I totally support anybody regardless of who you are. Doesn't matter, because I'm gay myself, so it's cool when somebody can accept themselves for who they are. Their softly pointed face was painted with expertly applied makeup that could rival the pristine details of the cakes and on offer. That was framed by a few strands of shoulder-length pastel pink hair. The rest of it was propped into a fancy updo with floral accessories. As glamorous as the employee was, they weren't too good for a homey apron to protect their pretty clothes from messy behind-the-scenes work that lovely baked treats demanded. A shiny purple button on one of the strap had their pronouns printed out in black letters. They, them. They greeted the small crowd with a gentle amble tone. Welcome to Zake. Thanks for coming by.
Hi.
My name is Xavier, the head baker, and I own the shop too.
Hey.
Sup, Xavier? His uh, reply was familiar to the point of being flippant. Nico wasn't even looking at them when he said it. He leaned lower and began pursuing the daily selections up close. Hello, Nico. Your patience is always appreciated. With the personal gratings between those two complete, Xavier looked over the rest of your game with a friendly smile.
Good to see you.
It's good to see you again, too. There's usual conversations skills failed him. He was loath to embrace another person by pointing out the little fact that they weren't seeing each other again. A total style in the exchange was avoided thanks to the fact that George didn't have the same reservations. He could speak far more frankly. We've never been here before, only Nico. Though maybe Chippy has. I can't speak for him. No, we haven't been here. He raised an eyebrow while glancing your way. He paused his small correction to let you contribute your side concerning the bakery. You shook your head at the possibility of this being a repeat spot for you. As far as you knew, Zeke didn't even exist the last time you were in the city. This is my first time. That's what I thought. You don't know us. Xavier's grin was undaunted. That might have been a customer service skill, but Nicholas, snickering mischievously in the background, gave away that something else was likely the reason for their calm reaction to George's directness. You Soares brothers may not have been all together in my bakery before, but we certainly have already met more than once. Yeah, they're wondering like, huh? Four eyes went wide and the two mouths glanced at the same time in the same way. The saver spoke surely and plainly. Derek and George flipped instantly from viewing them as a stranger to embarrassment over forgetting someone they should have known.
Mm-hmm.
And Chippy, was it? I think we might be acquainted too. Really? How? That's what I want to know. I'm gonna go with this one. That made you curious. You eagerly waited to find out more. What kind of history do you have with them? Two of the three brothers transparently inspected Xavier up and down, trying to put together how they might have met the mysterious baker who claimed they know them. Meanwhile, the youngest of the set pretended that he was still scrutinizing the desserts. But unless they had jokes hidden in the frosting, Nicholas's highly amused smirk reflected in the glass revealed that he was fully engaged in the conversation happening above him. George tilted his head from the one side to the other and crossed his arms. Derek subconsciously scratched the side of his face at the awkward turn this had taken.
Well,
Sorry, I'm blanking on who you are. How did we meet? Xavier's eyes fluttered closed as they primarily straightened their apron.
Don't apologize.
Nicholas, with his hair clips and wild locks, is very recognizable. He hasn't changed at all. If only I saw one of you as an adult in isolation, I doubt I would have realized who you were either. Without I would have realized who you were either. Yep. As adults. That one point jumped out at George, so directly he spoke it back to Xavier as if he was Nicholas mimicking Derek. Exactly. The last time we saw each other, you were at least 2 feet shorter. Xavier hovered their flattened fingers in front of them like they were resting on a counter roughly around 4 feet high as a visual demonetization. They progressively lifted their hand up until their palm was high enough that it could have set on top of fully grown George's head. If he was closer, um, utilizing their tiptoes as necessary for the feet. The feet. I've always had an artist's soul, but my medium wasn't always decorative pastries. My first job straight out of high school was painting faces at the big boardwalk park. Oh, okay. That's where we met this person. Even though they didn't show up in the past moments back then. But yeah, this is the same person, I guess. Yeah.
Whoa!
Derek's face went alright with a flash of recognition. The fingers had been scraping skin, twitched, then started to certainly press along the length of his cheek, as though a painted rainbow might have suddenly appeared there. George slapped his hand against his forehead. It had become so obvious to him. The trio of excitable yet well-behaved brothers would have come by a few times a year, were some of my favorite customers. But Xavier quite literally didn't forget about you either, and they shifted their gaze to rest on you.
Well,
I'm relatively sure one time the boys brought friends with them, and that one of the friends was you. Apparently so. Oh, you finally got it. That day on the boardwalk had been memorable for many reasons, but embarrassingly, the identity of the artist has slipped through the mental cracks. A tiny chuckle bubbled out. This wasn't even the first time a lack of recollection led to an amusing reunion. You weren't as good at recognizing faces as Baxter, clearly. Speaking of Baxter, that's gonna be our next moments when we after we finish this one. I haven't yet bought the Baxter DLCs yet, but I'm going to, and once I get that, I will be doing that after I get through with Derek's moments, of course. A huge childlike grin filled out Derek's face. He looked no different than he did all the years ago when you met first, Xavier, massive muscles aside.
I'm impressed.
You're spot on. One time Chippy and his older sis came with us, and we all stopped by your face painting stall. I can't believe we meet again, and like this, in a bakery of all things. It's awesome. Derek resolved to restart the interaction on the right foot, and he finally gave a greeting of his own to Xavier. Hey again, Xavier, the artist. The middle brother followed the oldest example and offered a reprise to his original statement.
Oh,
Oh, okay. Good to see you again, too. small world, Xavier. Xavier was just tickled by the reaction. The visit was going to be worth it for them, even if you walked away without purchasing a single slice of cake. At some point, Nicholas had stopped eyeballing the pastries and had leaned coolly against the counter. He also finally rejoined the conversation instead of existing as an entertained audience member. I told you the owner was cool. Oh, thank you for taking me up. Thank you for talking me up, Nicholas. Now that we're all reacquainted, is there anything I can do for you? Nico slipped his hands into his pockets, staying totally chill. We'll probably just get a couple of things to go. I want. He paused to squint down over his shoulder and at the treats one more time. Get me an eclair and a cup of water too.
Will do. Anything else?
They surveyed the other three people in the room as they asked the question and waited for a response. George approached his only little brother at the front of the display, shooting him a weary smile. Opened his arrival, but then he quite seriously considered what was available. I'll have a blueberry muffin. The one in the middle on the left, my left. It looks like it has the most berries. Xavier gave two quick nods. Their hands were already busy putting together a box for Nico's selected pastry. Derek hovered stayed back, and his focus went to you rather than the baker on their wares.
You ready?
What are you thinking? I'm gonna pass. Why not try something new?
No.
Yeah, but thanks. I can claim a bite of Nico's or George's. That's enough for me. Maybe I could try yours if you want any. I'm not sure. Give it a better look. Get a better look at them. Cool. You joined the Suarez brothers and contemplated what, if any, treats to pick out for yourselves. Up close, you noticed that there were tiny handwritten signs in front of the options. They declared what flavor each confection was in pretty looping letters. I'm gonna be right back. All right, I'm back. All right, I read this part. The variety was somewhat limited, but those likely weren't the only things the bakery ever had available. They were simply what was made for that day. You decided what you wanted. Raspberry and lemon cake sounds pretty good. But then again, the blueberry muffin, that sounds really good. I've had those. I've had blueberry muffins before. They're great. I love them. For real. I'm going to choose the blueberry muffin. You heard Derek come up behind you. You didn't have to look to guess that what he was trying to figure out. What had caught your eye? You eagerly pointed out the prized dessert.
Nice.
Looks good. Xavier, I'd like to get a blueberry muffin. Absolutely. And that's everything. The two prepped boxes were sitting side by side as Xavier reached behind them for a third. Should be. Nicholas and George both gave thumbs up to confirm that they were all taken care of. The answer caused fighting confusion from Xavier.
So?
You're not getting what Derek is getting, Nico? Nah, he gets whatever he wants. I mean, back when he was little, he would get whatever Derek got. But, yeah, I mean, they're grown up now. He can have his own decision on whether he wants. What kind of teasing from the other than Sarah's caught you entirely by surprise, but Nicholas was able to quip back with ease. Maybe I would have, but Derek isn't getting anything. You'd lose out on a sale if I copied that. So true, so true. Good point. You don't need to do that. Hey, why don't you be the one to pick out something for him instead?
Sorry.
No thanks. That's not how this works. Ooh, okay. Not gonna pick anything out for your big brother. Alright. Alright. It was worth the shot. Yeah, nice try. The two chuckled good naturedly. Let me ring you up. Those were the magic words to draw Derek fully over to the front. He came up to a spot right across from the register, and it didn't go unnoticed.
Derek?
You're the only one who didn't get anything. You shouldn't pay. Nico snapped his head around with a look of true offense at what had gone on behind his back. He folded his arms disciplinedly, catching Derek with his hand in the methodical cookie jar. Or rather, putting his own cookies in someone else's jar.
What?
Derek made a look of Fox surprise that gave Xavier's response to Nicholas's non-mimicked decision, making a run for its money with his scoff of played up disbelief. You can't take away my oldest child privilege of treating my little brothers. Yeah, exactly. And Chippy is my boyfriend. Why wouldn't I pick up the tab for him? Ah, my husband to be. Yay. You know it. You know it, honey. You know it. Excuse me. All right. Anyway, the middle and youngest Soares shared concerned glances with one another. Their brows knit, their frowns salty. However, their brotherly, nonverbal communication gradually softened. Their expressions, their eyes, carried the message they needed, and soon they were shrugging in acceptance. Derek gave a winning grin and pulled out his awaiting wallet. He was forever their big brother after all. What a gentleman.
Might try.
I know. The treats were paid for, and Xavier carefully passed over the crisp white boxes to their rightful owners. The Zik logo was printed in, of course, pink ink across the top flaps. They also handed a cup over. They also handed over a cup of water for Nicholas.
Have a wonderful day.
Thank you for a lovely paint finish. Have a wonderful day. Derek, George, and Nicholas each gave a cheery goodbye and began to walk out as a group. You gave a wave and turned to leave with them. Thank you too. Bye. Your group's first stop of the day was completed in a sweetly satisfying way. Everyone got back into the car, same seats as before. No one had even put their seatbelt on before George asked a very reasonable question.
Now what?
What are we doing now? Derek checked the back seat through the mirror. Yeah. What now, Nico? Nicholas crossed his arms behind his head, thoughtfully staring out the window. All eyes stayed on today's decision maker. He considered long and hard in the hot car about how to use his power. In the end, he went for his old default. The teen leaned all the way over to and popped his head through the gap between the two front seats. He glanced back and forth between you and Derek with one fuzzy brow arched. What did people do when you were teens?
Oh, man.
What? Way to make us sound ancient. We're 23. I know, right? Actually, I'm not 23, but I'm going to tell you exactly how old I am. Okay. Way past that age. For real. We're not over the hill yet. You know, sometimes it feels that way. Darn kids at age. You aren't old. Nicholas. We aren't old. Nicholas is. Oh, baby. Nico wants to do what Derek did. What a surprise. Yeah, I'm gonna pick this one. Nico wants to do what Derek did? What a surprise. Nicholas rolled his eyes. This was the second time in about 10 minutes he was getting teased for that. You couldn't help it. But he pressed again. I meant it. What was the place to be when you weren't babysitting me and George? Okay. Derek tapped a finger against the steering wheel. Oh, usually we went to the beach. I would think. Or the mall, yeah. That was that one time that we went to the mall. I remember the mall being super cool when I was still in school, but that started to die out, huh?
What?
The mall? Really? Sparkles began to twinkle in Nicholas's eyes like a twilight sky. Yeah. The word was nostalgic whisper. His gaze drifted off to somewhere in the distance. Hey Chippy, remember when Miss Priest brought you, me and Cove and Lee to the mall and just took off? So we were on our own. I thought that was such a bad idea, but it was a ton of fun. Yeah, definitely. She was cool. Totally. George shrugged as a single shoulder buckling himself in for the ride. I've only ever gone there with Mom to get some new clothes. I don't remember it being better than the other store, but if that's what Nico wants to do, I don't mind.
Let's go!
Nicholas launched himself backwards and bounced on in his seat. He stayed still just long enough to lock his seatbelt into place.
Let's get to it.
The mall it is. The two more clicks followed as you and Derek put your seatbelt on. Derek pulled out, and you were on the road once more. The drive was spent with Derek trying and failing to remember all the stores that used to be in the county mall. He listed several off, but he had no idea how many were still open in the year of 2021, or if they were even real store names, or he was mixing the words up. His little brothers revealed the laugh-inducing, floundering explanation of the magical mall of his youth. They took bets on how many of the shops they actually see when they got there. George guessed only about 3 of them would be there, if they ever existed. Nicholas declared that every single one would be there, even the ones that definitely sounded made up. Derek reasonably, as always, went down the middle of his own recollection and guessed that you'd be able to find half of them there. You agreed with Derek. Derek assured you that you'd made a wise decision. You felt good about your odds. When you rolled into the county mall's expensive parking lot, Derek was able to get a parking spot without any trouble. There were rows and rows of cracked, oil-stained slots with only a single car or two there already. Just as Derek thought, the location had most of its properly as the years went on. It was at least convenient for your needs. It was probably the only place in the city where the parking wasn't jam-packed. The four of you filed out of the car, crossed the lot, and passed through the towering front doors. The interior of the place had a slight uncanny feeling. The massive structure was unchanged from when you were a teenager, but everything felt smaller, less grand than before. There were stores that you were almost certain you never seen there, yet there was so little to differentiate their offers and appearances from the shops of the past. It made you question your memory. Well, here we are. Take it in.
Wow.
You wandered up and down the wide, mostly emptied halls, pointing out stores Derek had named or almost named along the way. It was a game of I Spy. The younger brothers were quite entertained just by that. They led the pack to get their first look at whatever was ahead. Dirk and you lingered behind and gave apparent reactions whenever one of the boys shouted out the store name that matched Derek's recollection, or one that he had failed to note. The two laughed and waved back at you, while you cheered and buoyed up at them. When you neared the end of the aisle, there was a break in the store names that could be announced. Derek used that moment to whisper a joking remark. It feels like we're babysitting again, huh? It does, but they'll get grumpy if they hear us say so. Yeah, no shit. They're too old to be called babies anymore. Come on. You're right. But they won't. They're too distracted. He winked and picked up the pace. Nico and George had drifted further away from his watchful eyes, and a responsible babysitter couldn't let that happen. Your group arrived at the crossroads of the mall, where three separate halls of stores covered in the middle. Oh, converted in the middle? Yeah. Converted in the middle, okay. Excuse me. A tiny playground of coin rides, flanked by half-full candy dispensers, remained in the centerpiece. The little cars and the helicopter were far more worn down, but still intact. Wow, okay. Derek snorted at the revelation.
Man,
Well, we definitely are too old for that now. I might seriously break something if I tried to fit. While the buoyancy of Nicholas and George to fill in the space, the sounds of footsteps echoed so much louder. Derek's expression twisted and dropped bittersweetly, looking at the space. Being here now is not the same. Then his focus came unto his brothers, and his face snapped back to its usual optimism.
so
So, do you guys actually want to go into any of these stores? His little brothers both turned around to stare wide-eyed at their older. Nicholas and George were generally taken by surprise at the idea of behaving as regular customers. They were visiting as sightseers of an architectural site from times long gone. Nico blinked rapidly and hydrated his eyeballs after keeping them open for so long. Then his expression slipped into an easy grin, and he put his hands on his hips. Yeah, I'll try it. He scanned the rows and rows of stores with new, refreshed eyes. A target was quietly acquired. Nicholas pointed out an outstretched hand at a black-walled skater shop. I want to take a look at that one. George had come to face an entirely different direction. He'd mulled over the suggestion and slightly was glancing with consideration at a bookstore with huge glass windows that showed off not only the books on sale but other wares like board games and figurines. An unspoken difference of opinion didn't escape Derek's attention. He spoke with full authority, truly dusting off those old babysitter instincts. Hey, this doesn't mean I want you guys going off on your own. You're not little kids, but we're here to be together, and there's time to see more than one place. We'll take turns. Okay. Automatically and observed, George and Nicholas replied in unison. They were good kids. Is there someplace you and Chippy want to go to? Derek didn't hesitate. He jerked a thumb over his shoulder at the video game shop.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I want to check out. Chippy? All the Suarez brothers watched you questioningly, each wondering the same thing. It was hard to say without knowing for sure what the opinions even were. But luckily the center section had handy 8-foot tall map that was brazen with easily to follow categories and a list of store names. It was variable cheat sheet for their little game, and you were glad the two younger boys found stores they wanted without needing to peek at it. There was nothing wrong with you having some extra insight though, and you read over everything laid out. A significant amount of stores sold food, and you just left a bakery and should be eating with the rest of the family pretty soon, so you decided against all of those. You also realized something was missing. There had been a music store before, and now the spot was filled with by a perfume and candle store. Behind that, there were tons of chain stores with very standard types of products. Hmm. Art supply shop. Hmm. Let's go to the camping and outdoor supply shop. They have that? Yeah, let's check it out. Derek nodded his head formally, but peered it with a cheery grin.
Come on.
We've got a plan. Let's go to Nicholas's place first. He had the first pick anyway. Y'all headed to the skater shop. Your group crowded into Nicholas's choice of store. Aggressively rock music played within the graphic tee covered walls. It was small and cramped, making it impossible for 4 people to navigate between the displays together. Derek and George were flittered through the narrow spaces on one side of the shop, and you and Nicholas were on the other. The claustrophobic atmosphere didn't faze Nico. He lacklustically surveyed the scene, stopping only when he came across a shelf of slip-on shoes. Nicholas lifted a checked shoe off the rack and weighed it in his hand. By the intrigued raise of brows, you got the impression you'd be in that spot for a while. Let's ask him. Have you gotten into skateboarding? He snickered at the clearly out touch grown up he was talking to. No way. I don't live that life, but I appreciate the aesthetic. Ah, understandable. Yeah, I tried skateboarding as a kid. It didn't take very well with me. I mean, I kept falling and getting scrapes and all kinds of stuff. After a while, my mom just took my skateboard away from me. It was like, you are not doing this anymore. You keep getting bruised and scrapes and all this. No more for you. But yeah, I agreed. I gave it up. You laughingly hiccuped at the smile response that sounded like Nico. Nico's usual energy faded from him, and the shoe became a lead weight in his hand. It hung low at his side as he started meekly at the wall. With a sigh, he mustered enough motivation to simply place the shoe back on the rack. Is everything all right? Listless chilled into divisiveness at your concern. Nicholas crossed his bare arms tightly against his chest. He wouldn't look at you. That was enough of a hint to realize this wasn't about the shoes. It was time to acknowledge the elephant that could in no way fit in that room. Nicholas, you're upset about me dating Derek, aren't you? Hope not. From what you could see, from what you could see, his half face, his expression would be hard to read, even if he wasn't hiding it. The expression was conflicted, not quite anger, not quite sadness, but quite fear. In order of it all was a layer of guilt. You have him space. You gave him space, knowing you'd already parted enough. When he spoke, it was slow, unsure. He was processing what he was thinking as he was vocalizing it. I don't want you to break my brother's heart, since he obviously likes you. And I don't wish that Derek never met anybody who he liked. And I like you too. Oh, thanks, Nicholas. Glad to hear that. I thought we were friends, like you were friends with him. Of course we are. Nicholas worked himself up more and more at confronting this part of his feelings, but his turmoil quickly fizzled out.
I don't know.
But I don't know. Now that you're really together, you're probably going to stay together, and I don't know. He dropped like a match that had a bucket of water dumped over it. I've never had a real girlfriend, and Derek could be going off to make his own family, and who knows how soon. I'm gonna go over this last one. I think of you as a friend too. There, they got a smile out of you. This time, your words softened and his demeanor, instead of sharpening it, he wasn't all bitter. It was still a concern, but you could see hope and trust in his gaze. Even though it wasn't today, you felt confident that someday he would be truly happy about the shift in relationship dynamics that had occurred. Nicholas gestured with his hand for you to come as he turned away more. He walked back to the center of a tiny space. From there, it was for his older brothers to spot him. Derek and George waited through the merchandise, pressing in from all sides, almost knocking a few things over on the way. It was a rough place to be for a couple of large adult men. I'll be right back. But they didn't have to worry about that for long. I'm done with this, he announced with a shrug. Nico hadn't gotten anything. He'd only wanted to satisfy his curiosity. We can go someplace else now. Well, let's go to George's pick. He wanted to do the bookstore. The four of you filed into a large bookstore and began to drift around. It was one of the most spacious shops in the mall. George went down very first aisle of books and you walked with him. He was focused enough that he had to be searching for something, but there was no way to tell what was on his mind. So, have you started seeing anyone since starting college? Oh, I embarrassed him. Sorry about that, George. George's relaxed disposition dissolved in a flash of color on his face. He started through the books. He stared through the books in front of him, unable to think clearly enough for the words printed on their spines to seep into his brain. Maybe. George frazzled response made it impossible to not tease him just a little bit. Are you being coy, or are you unaware if you're dating someone or not? We don't have a label, but, well, words failed him, and the response faded out. Oh. You chuckled softly. That was unexpected. Who knew George was actually unsure of his current relationship standing? But it seemed he was having some interesting romantic adventures in college. Good luck, George. He nodded stiffly and put his brain power into focusing on the books once more. All thoughts of his special someone were packed away for now. The books didn't hold Nico's or Derek's attention as long as George's. While he remembered in one section he considered each title on the shelf, his brothers skipped along from roll to roll after giving only curiosity glances to the specifics. With a bit of distance between himself and his family, George took the opportunity to have more private conversation with you personally. His quiet voice and being walled in by books made you feel as if you were in a library rather than a mall.
I'm glad.
I'm glad you chose to date Derek. Oh, I'm glad to hear it. That floored you. That wasn't what you found unbelievable, but you hoped only for support in you and Derek's decision, not active encouragement for it. And the fact that he didn't only think that it was willing to admit it directly to you, you were going to need a minute. He peeked at you out of the corner of his eyes. He knew exactly the kind of emotional bomb he'd set off. I think a lot of kids imagine their favorite babysitter never going away, even when they grow up. But for me, it's not merely a concept, it's real. I'm gonna go with the second one. I'm the one who's lucky to get to stay a part of the group. He simply returned to shopping as could be. You felt much lighter yourself. George ended up finding a newly released thriller that sounded interesting. He purchased it and then went to find his siblings. Nicholas and Derek had holed up in the graphic novel and manga aisle. They looked up as you and George approached. They grinned after seeing a bag under George's arm. I'm finished. Thanks for coming with me. What now? Alright. Derek's choice. The game store. Derek confidently strode into a local games shop with his younger brothers flanking his sides. The set of three glanced around eagerly, then split off in different directions around the single room. You followed Derek towards the front right wall, while George and Nicholas went to the back corners. He bounced up and down on the pads of his feet like a kid in a candy store. We should totally get something. Sure. What console do you have? None. Not right now, at least. Bunch of junk on the keyboard here. Oops. Went back too far. There we go. A conspiratorial gleam shone in his shifting green eyes while watching his back. Derek inclined his face closer to you, put a hand to the side of his face, and shared his real plan with you. I'm going to convince Nico to let us borrow his Switch. I know he got one last year just for himself, but what I don't know is all the games he owns.
Awesome.
That's no longer a problem now. We could pick out whatever we want here. Something that we could play together. Oh. We'll need an extra controller too. He chattered along partly with restrained excitement, smiling sweetly at you as he did. Derek could have gotten a digital download of a game instead, but there was no need to spoil the fun of picking it out in a real store. Sports game. I'm sure they'll have a shooter we could play. I wonder if there's any multiplayer sim. How about one of those racing games? Those are fun. Let's race. You did your best to mimic the bold inflection of Derek's father. It got a good laugh. Perfect. Let's race. The two of you walked out as a team to scour through the library of Switch games for the right genre with multiplayer capability. A few considerers appeared, and you had a multi-group of huddle to come to a final decision. Excuse me. Derek held the case high like prize. It was marched towards the register. You plucked a refurbished controller off the wall and followed after him. Derek clapped the case against the counter with as much gumption as someone playing a winning hand in cards. I gotta check on something. Let's see. Let's go to Windows. See if it's still playing, recording here. La. Yep, it's still recording. Okay. Alright, here we go. Let's get back into it. Alright. Go. He chuckled at his own dramatics when you had to awkwardly slide the controller he'd gotten alongside the game. Thanks, Chippy. It was a team effort. Nicholas couldn't go too long without checking in on his big brother's activity. He spotted the two of you at the register, seeing it was a game for the Switch. He nodded happily. The team was blissfully aware of Derek's true intentions with buying for that console. Derek played it cool and paid for the game and controller. He didn't even look at his little brother until the deal was done and he'd secured the bag. Then Derek flipped around confidently.
Nice work.
Mission accomplished. Let's hit the next shop. Alright, camping gear. You checked out over to the offerings available. Most of it was stuff you couldn't get anywhere else, but there were some decent sales going on. You were able to pick out one thing you wanted to buy. The Suarez brothers gave approving thumbs ups on your selection. They stuck beside you as you checked out and finished up your turn.
Okay.
Okay. We've had some good stops, but it's getting late. We've got to go now. Home now. Nicholas generally accepted the end of the trip. Fine. Thanks for bringing us up to this old place. A warmth came from his voice as he concluded his statement. It's cool that we got to hang out together. I know, right? The sweetness brought a huge grin to Derek's face. He placed a hand on Nicholas's head as he had done for many years. I'm glad we we did this too. Nicholas beamed at those words. The only thing better than having fun with his family was knowing that his family was having fun with him as well. In high spirits, he flipped out under Derek's hold and threw an arm over George's shoulder. The middle brother linked his own hand around Nico. The affection between all three had only grown stronger as the years had gone by. Everyone ambled towards the exit, feeling fulfilled. As you approached the door, George began to speak. Did anyone else notice Derek and Chippy won the bet? About half the stores he mentioned were real and there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Nicholas stuck out a peace sign and cheered vigorously, despite not having won himself. Something even better had happened. Obviously, if Derek wasn't right about all the stores he talked about, then he'd be right about how many stores he'd be right about. Derek shook his head with a laugh at the exaggerated description from his biggest fan.
Thanks.
Thanks for believing in me. Always, bro. We're the best. Well, yeah. Sounding humble as a struggle with how giddy all the praise made him. All the loose threads had been tied up, and you left them all behind. You got back into the shotgun seat and strapped in for the drive back to Sora's home. When everyone was set, you were on your way. It was a peaceful ride, mostly quiet. After the long excursion out, a rest was in order. But it only lasted for the first leg of the trip. Eventually, the soothing rumble of the car was hammered with the gentle sounds of Nicholas humming joyful to himself. And only a second later, that was followed by a heart-wrenching gasp. The oldest brother instantly stiffened in his seat.
What's up?
What's up, Nicholas?
No!
My Claire, it's disgusting. Oh. Yeah, Claire? He ran the piece of information through his mind. The fact the situation clicked into place. It melted? Yeah, that's what happens when you probably left it out in the car, huh? Nicholas wrenched trembly of it all. Derek was right again. He let out a nervous chuckle.
Never would have guessed that.
Oh, what do you think would happen? It's a cream-filled dessert that's been sitting for hours in a locked car during summer. I didn't think anything. It just happened. I'm sorry, Nicholas. We could maybe get you another one.
That's a bummer.
I figured you were gonna eat it on the way to the mall. I forgot about it. There were plenty of questions and comments coming from both his brothers, but there was little Nicholas could say in defense. You twisted in your seat to check on the youngest. The sight was pitiful. He was slouched in his seat, gazing down into the box full of regrets. The suffering couldn't be ignored. George was compelled to offer a solution to protect Nico from the consequences of his actions. You can have mine. It's still fine. It's a little soft but warm. Muffins are good. Nicholas tucked his knees up and gripped the box more tightly. A new dessert sadly couldn't undo what had been done. I don't want that. I ruined mine. It's inevitable. The Solness brewing in the back seat was cracked by a bold declaration from the very front. I doubt that. Pass it over. That snapped Nicholas to attention. He was boggled by his brother. It wasn't hard to imagine why. Derek didn't enjoy treats on a normal day, and that one in particular was in a sorry state. But it was even easier to guess the reason all of that didn't matter. Derek could stomach anything for his baby brother. He continued to coax Nicholas.
I see how it is.
I was going to try to get some of your dessert. That's the reason I didn't get my own. If you're not having any, that makes it even better for my plans. Nicholas wasn't a 6-year-old anymore. He knew the placenting stunt when he saw one. He murmured at Derek in pouty resistance, trying to brush the whole attempt off. Yet Derek had grown in the same time as well. He hadn't lost his neck at tending to his baby brothers. Even if it took more effort, he pretended to be obvious to the rejection. Chibi, could you get me the box? There was a groan and a sliding, shuffling sound. Nicholas had shoved the box through the opening between the driver's seat and shotgun. Just like the guessing game, he wasn't going to win this. Okay. You took a zinc box from Nicholas and brought it up to the front. And lid was already open. You you got a peek at the eclair puddle. It was only about half tall as it had been originally. The structure of the field treat collapsed in on itself. The paper dolly underneath was entirely coated in liquefied chocolate frosting and pastry cream. You held the eclair out towards Derek. Yeah. Your fingers sunk into the sides of the overheated pastry with no resistance. They were immediately covered in sticky ooze bleeding out from the inside. There was no way to do what he wanted to do without getting messy, but it was the path you'd chosen. You made the best attempt to avoid having the car suffer the same fate as your hands as you inched the eclair towards Derek's head.
Whoa!
The unexpected convection floating in Derek's peripheral caught him entirely off guard. He gripped the wheel harder, while ethereal whispers could be heard from the two audience members. You were sure he might have had something to say at your stunt, but he kept himself composed and casual. He was driving and his little brothers were watching. Thanks, Chippy. That makes it easier. His eyes stayed on the road and he turned his head over so slightly to reach the treat. He didn't waste any time taking as large a bite as he could manage. He barely seemed to chew it before he swallowed. It isn't that bad. Not too sweet. I'm honestly impressed. Xavier is a damn good baker. I'm gonna give it back to Nicholas. Yeah. I gave it back to Nicholas. The clear was placed back down, and you returned that reminded of the dessert to its original owner. He poked at the remnants inside. After all that, he couldn't help himself and scooped up some mushy mess and gave it exploratory taste. Nico grimaced as soon as it hit his tongue. He let out a heavy sigh when he swallowed it down. It's pretty gross. As true as that was, there was a birthday chuckle thread to his words. Not so long ago, he'd been as droopy as the eclair itself. He Now he was starting to perk up. There was one person left who didn't take part in the event. He stayed quiet no longer. Could I try it too?
Totally.
It's yours. The box was unconservatively dumped into George's legs. He awkwardly grabbed it to keep it from falling onto the floor. George gave it a snort.
Thanks.
Don't mention it. There was still plenty to go. Derek got a third of it down, but Nico's contribution was much more mirror, and it was quite lengthy type of confection. George wasn't going to drag things out, however. He managed to squash all of that remained into a single bite. His face became coated with goopy mix of frosting and cream and dissolving puff pastry. That was the only trace that survived after George's eclair massacre. Nicholas' laughter burst out harder than he was both amazed and horrified. You guys, it's gone along a little too longer than I thought I was going to be, and I'm pretty sure my hubby's gonna want this computer back, because originally this is, I mean, it's the only good computer in the house, really good computer. It's good for recording on and stuff, but it is his computer, so I'm gonna go ahead and save it right there. And we will come back to it later on, I promise. So don't forget to click the like button and click the subscribe button for those of you who haven't subscribed yet. I do appreciate it. And thank you again for watching on my YouTube channel. And don't forget to check out my Patreon. And please become a Patreon contributing member. Remember, all the membership funds that go there go directly to a worthy charity. So you'll be doing a great thing by helping out the community of worthy charities. So, let's get this up here. And I will see you guys later.